so much, John, and thanks everybody for that warm welcome. Got a lot of speakers. I will just say in relation to that I did very much appreciate the message of support that I got. People know I had a heart transplant in December after a 4-month stay in hospital. And one thing I want to talk about in my speech, but I might as well get out there right up front, is that it makes you all realise, if you use the NHS services, particularly in a life-saving situation, in my case a 4 times life-saving situation, that the NHS is one of the greatest achievements of our movement in this country's history, founded on principle of free care for people at the point of need, and it is one that is constantly under threat, and that we should always, as a union and as a movement, make defending the NHS core to everything that we do, which we've got a big chance to do in this general election, by the way. But we should also link another issue to it, which is the fact that the NHS is propped up by what is called migrant labour, that is constantly under attack in this post-Brexit racist debate we get about immigration and people coming to this country. And my experience, which I think has been shared by others, is if it wasn't for the Swiss doctor who did my transplant, or the Chinese surgeon before that who put the metal heart in to save my life, the Indian cardiologist, or the East European junior doctors or the nurses from Africa, then the reality is the health service, in my case, could not have delivered the service I got. And if all those people who come to this country to make this country a better place left tomorrow, the health service would have to shut up shop. So I hope we can all agree, in defending the NHS, let's make the link to oppose racism. Whilst I didn't come to talk about sex workers, I do just want to say, having listened to that last contribution, which I very much enjoyed, just to be clear, people don't have to wait long to help clarify what PCS's position is. There is a motion on the conference agenda, which is about decriminalisation of sex work, and the NEC's attitude is to support that motion at the conference, and therefore the reality is our policy will be determined by you as delegates. Now, we abstained, just to be quite clear, as a union, because we believe in representing the policy of the union. Our previous policy came through a consultation with branches that actually did say we wanted to organise and have rights for sex workers, but on the question of decriminalisation did not come to a settled view. On that basis, it's right, I think, to abstain, because when delegates go to the TUC, they represent the union. But we can conflict, we can put right or take a considered view on this during the week. I'm sure people listen with great interest to what you said. And I'm just making it clear that the NEC's attitude is, if that is debated, that there should be support for the motion. So hopefully that clarifies what our attitude to that is. So can I now just move on to what the meeting is about? And as I say, there's lots of speakers, and I just wanted to make my own sort of contribution about the election. Why I am absolutely crystal clear, and I'm saying publicly wherever I can, that I will be voting Labour on June the 8th. I am urging everybody I talk to vote Labour on June the 8th. And to recognise that this is an opportunity and a choice for us, a historic choice, that many people have wanted to see in previous elections but haven't felt that this choice was available, that we don't let this moment pass, and that we say to ourselves, let's not get bogged down by, is this a debate about affiliation to Labour, or saying I will now commit loyally to the Labour Party for the next 50 years of my life. They're different debates. It is a motion and a situation about where we are at this moment in time, which is in 2 weeks' time, we get a choice. We get a choice for Theresa May and a government that will unleash mayhem across the public services and for the people that we care about. Or we can have Jeremy Corbyn, who is going to do a whole raft of progressive things I want to mention in a minute that could transform people's lives. When it comes to it being that stark, then I think we have to do everything we can to embrace the choice that we've got and not to be waylaid by debates from the past and about things that we didn't like in the past and were afraid to commit to, or allow ourselves to be diverted by the fact that whilst this is a clear-cut issue for people in England and Wales, there are clearly complications in Scotland that we as a union have to understand and we have to consider in moving forward. And that is a big issue in Scotland, but for most people in this room, the choice is pretty clear-cut. And that is, do we want Corbyn or do we want Theresa May? And my view is that not only do we want Corbyn, but we should spend every working minute between now and June the 8th doing everything we can to bring that about. And I want to just say why we say this, and why am I so clear-cut, and what does that mean for PCS when we debate this on Wednesday, which I'm sure is going to come up at the meeting itself. Well, I start from when I was in this meeting last year. I was in a different venue, And we were talking about defending Jeremy Corbyn and the importance of what his election to the Labour leadership meant. And now here we are a year on. Not only has Corbyn managed to survive the attempts internally in the Labour Party to destabilise himself, but he has presented us with a manifesto that I think, for people who are sceptical, goes so much further than all the naysayers or people who were really worried about it would have expected. And for PCS, as I've been setting out at the conferences I've addressed today, it could not be starker. Now, John McDonnell and Jeremy Corbyn were founder members of the PCS parliamentary group more than a decade ago. They've stood on every one of our picket lines. They've opposed all the cuts in staffing and resource and opposed privatisation, stood with us when our reps have been victimised, raised things in Parliament and been on the picket lines. And so we have always been clear that they are politicians of immense integrity, personal principle that we should be proud to associate ourselves with. But now it's not just about Jeremy Corbyn and John McDonnell, it's the fact that they offer to the country with the Labour Party manifesto an end to the public sector pay cap, an end to privatisation, support for the NHS, support for disabled people, for us in PCS, the restoration of national pay bargaining for the first time in decades. Choices that, if they're in position to deliver them, will transform the lives of PCS members, their families and the communities in which we live. And this isn't sort of just abstract rhetoric, it is the choice that is in front of the British people. And therefore it is worth reminding ourselves, as we know in PCS, that if Theresa May gets back in, and we already as a union have been absolutely crystal clear that a Tory government is the worst possible outcome for PCS members, it means pay restraint till 2020 and beyond, increasing the programme of job cuts, more office closures on top of the hundreds that we already face, probably more privatisation, and a brutal employer. And also for the people that we serve in public services, it means further attacks on the welfare state. Just look at the policy they have on social care, the so-called dementia tax, further attacks on education and on the health service. So these are pretty stark choices. But what Labour offer is not just we're opposed to what Theresa May is saying. Jeremy Corbyn not has just said the things I've mentioned for PCS, but let's pull another one out of the hat, that we'll repeal the Trade Union Act. We'll restore rights to trade unions that can begin to give us a level playing field when we have to fight against employers who are making our members and their families pay the price. And I revealed earlier on that the TUC were told when we met a couple of weeks ago that they are expecting, in the event of a Tory victory, there will be a new raft of anti-union legislation which will almost certainly include the legal requirement for unions to provide services during disputes on a minimum service standard, which is next to being one step away from no strikes being allowed in the public sector. And therefore, they will go further than they have already gone if they win. Now, faced with all of that, any, not just socialist, but any trade unionist, anyone who cares about the things we're going to hear about tonight, fighting racism for disabled rights, for people who want a strong welfare state, a fair taxation system, an economy that is not about the rich, but is about for all of us, will see the importance of getting absolutely stuck in to do what we can. And I've talked to people at this conference, and I was just talking to Matt, that a couple of weeks ago were obviously saying all the right things, but saw the opinion polls and could see the way that Theresa May was running this campaign to say, let's not talk about anything other than I'm a strong, stable leader, and let's talk about standing up to those nasty Europeans. And as a diversion tactic, you know, it was worrying that the issues we want to campaign on were not getting the coverage or the type of sort of cut into the voter that you would like to see. Well, today we're seeing that Theresa May is doing a bit of a U-turn on her dementia tax social care policy. It's not often that a government already unpicks what's in its manifesto. They usually wait till they're elected and then unpick it. They don't usually do it during the campaign itself. We've seen opinion polls in Wales that show how much the tide has turned in terms of Wales. And actually now, you begin to see this mood that people who aren't just necessarily saying we're doing it because it's right, but we fear the worst, are actually the belief that maybe if we can do more and more and more of it, against all the odds, this can be far better than the pundits and people are predicting. And therefore we've got to do what we can to bring that about. Now I think it's worth saying for the trade union movement, it is equally right that whilst you do everything you can to bring that about, you have to prepare for all eventualities, including the worst of a Theresa May government, and we have things to debate about building our movement so we can be far more effective in defending the welfare state, fighting austerity and breaking the public sector pay cap. And that's certainly one of the things we'll talk about at PCS this week. But I, as addressing this meeting, want to be absolutely clear where I stand. Now I'll finish with the question is therefore, where does the union fit? And what do we say as a trade union? And what are we going to have to debate when we talk about this on Wednesday. We're not an affiliated union. We have never called for a support for any political party in our history, and neither have the majority, if not all, of the predecessor unions that form PCS. It comes from a tradition of the civil service and this mood amongst many that says you have to be politically neutral or politically independent, and therefore none of the unions, not for decades, have affiliated to Labour or called for a Labour vote. You gather that for what I'm saying, the time has come where we have to be quite clear about what is in front of us now and what we need to do. And the question therefore is, how do we square the circle of having recently done a consultation around political strategy, particularly what was coming not just from Scotland, but if you like, a sort of ancient antipathy towards Labour and the days of New Labour and austerity light, and Ed Gall's going into the last election saying, I support the public sector pay freeze, with the fact that the situation has changed and we need to run to catch up. Now I believe that if this election had been called, or was going to be in 2020, the inevitable conclusion that we would have reached as a union is that we would officially come out and say you should vote Labour because it is in the interest of our members. The problem we face with it being a snap election is that there are many people who are uncomfortable about swiftly making that jump because of the processes and the debates that we've had. So conference is where we are now going to have to bring that out and to take a decision. Now what is absolutely clear, I'm going to wind up John on this, is that if anyone has listened to anything that I've been saying, and others, Janice has been saying at the conferences, is that it's pretty clear that we're saying we do not want Theresa May, and actually the only other person who could be Prime Minister is Jeremy Corbyn. And therefore what we have to do is as much as possible to ensure Jeremy Corbyn gets the maximum amount of votes. Now we're saying that, and it's implicit. Now the debate we have is, should we go that one step further? Now, the NEC is meeting tonight at 9 o'clock, and it's going to be taking attitudes to the motions that have been submitted, and a range of motions that basically range from just do what we're doing at the moment, to we should go further in terms of support for Labour candidates if they support the policies of the union, to motions that just call for outright, wherever you live, our advice to you is to vote Labour. So we're going to have that discussion tonight, and you'll have that discussion on the conference floor. I would urge people in understanding that in Scotland there is a dimension that we have to understand, and if you look at what our members have said to us in Scotland, it is not as straightforward as many people may have you believe, and that's something that we have to navigate. But the reality of this election is not about the intricacies of what is happening politically in Scotland. It is about the choice that we have between Theresa May and between Jeremy Corbyn. I hope the union can play its full role in mobilising people to take the opportunity of a lifetime to vote for change. But I hope that whatever the conference decides which particular resolution that it supports, that everybody here and everybody back in the branch use every waking minute between now and June the 8th to tell people what this is about, to tell them what it means for their future, what it means for their kids' education with free tuition fees, what it means for an end to privatisation of the NHS, what it means for funding schools when they're facing real terms cuts that are astronomical because of the rising pupil numbers, what it means for disabled people and those using the benefit system, what it means for us as public servants. When that's faced in front of you, I conclude now is not the time for niceties. It is the time to build our movement, yes, but to ensure that Jeremy Corbyn gets the biggest possible vote on June the 8th so that we can face the future with confidence. And even if he hasn't won, know that every vote he got strengthens our position in the campaigns that we will have to fight. So good luck, I look forward to you.